Hi, how are you? This is the presentation on fragments. I'm going to move this up a bit. Okay. So fragments, this is chapter 22. This is page 325. So remember, when you're searching through the pages, all you have to do is enter 325 and it will take you to chapter 22. So what is a fragment? A fragment is a group of words that is missing one or more parts of a complete sentence. So you should know that a complete sentence is a subject, a verb, or a complete thought. So all of your sentences have to have a subject, a verb, or a complete thought. If they don't, it is a fragment. Fragment is a big error. No one should have fragments in their work. Okay, so here's an example. I was late, so I ate some cold pizza and drank a soda. This is complete. Uh, I was late, and then we have this dependent word here. So I ate some cold pizza and drank a soda. Okay. Now let's take a look at our example fragment. I was late, so I ate some cold pizza and drank a soda. And drink a soda contains a verb, drank, but it has no subject. So this all the difference. All you have to do is just add it to there. That's it. And this is the complete sentence, but this isn't. Because here we see that I ate and drank, right? So this subject here extends to this one here. But be careful because a lot of people make this mistake with fragments. They add this word and, but they forget to add the subject. Okay, so that's one example of a fragment. So again, I'm reiterating what a complete sentence is. Any sentence that ends with a period needs a subject, verb, and a complete thought to be a complete sentence. So how do you correct fragments? There are basic ways to correct a fragment, and we'll actually over the 5 most common fragments. Basically, you just need to add what is missing. Is it a subject that's missing? Is it a verb that's missing? Or is it both? And then or attach the fragment to the sentence before or after it. So usually, what you saw here on the last slide, I go back, with the and drink soda, there you go. Sorry. Um, we see that we need to add the subject. Also, we see that, no, that's not the example. I'll give you another example about attach the fragment to the sentence before or after it. Okay, there are 5 constructions that cause fragments. For the first 2, we'll do these, present both of these together because it's a very similar in how you fix them. Then we'll go over each of these separately. So there's fragments that start with prepositions. There's fragments that start with dependent words. There's fragments that start with ing verb forms. There's fragments that start with to plus verb. There's fragments that are examples or explanations. So we'll do each one at a time. Okay, so fragments that start with prepositions. So first you want to know what a preposition is. It's a location word, right? So it's like against, to, let me go here. Common prepositions. These are the examples. About, above, across. I'm not going to read those all to you, but see that these are location words. They are connecting other words to give a relationship to the other words surrounding. Okay, so you have that list. It's also on the handout. Let's take a look. Where is the fragment below? I pounded as hard as I could against the door. You see here it says missing a subject, it's missing a verb, and it is the fragment. Did you get it right? That was the fragment. So it's not a complete sentence. It doesn't have a subject, nor does it have a verb, and it is not a complete idea. So how do we fix this? To correct a fragment that starts with a preposition, you can connect it to the sentence either before or after it, right? So all you have to do is put it this way. I pounded as hard as I could against the door. That's it. Okay. Be careful because there is a comma, excuse me. There is a comma rule here. If you connect such a fragment to the sentence after it, oh, sorry. Correct a fragment that starts with a preposition by connecting it to the sentence either before or after it. If you connect such a fragment to the sentence after it, put a comma after the fragment to join the next sentence. Okay, so I'll explain and give some examples of that later. But for this one, all we have to do is take out the period make a lowercase and add this prepositional phrase to the sentence because it makes sense. I pounded as hard as I could against the door. I pounded against the door as hard as I could. You could add it that way too. I pounded against the door as hard as I could. So you can move it closer to be more clear. Again, here's our common prepositions to know. Okay, so that's all we need to know for now, and we're going to learn about fragments that start with dependent words. And then going to practice both together. Okay, so fragments that start with dependent words. So a dependent word is also called a subordinating conjunction. We actually will be talking about this week as well, but they're words that make a dependent clause. Okay, so let's take a look at some common ones. You should know these. After, if only, until, although, now. Sorry, that should be a space. That. These are interesting. We'll talk about those. As if, as though, once, as long as soon as, since, because, so, that, whether, before, that, which, even if, even though, while, how, unless, and who and who. So some of these we need to talk about. I didn't say them right away. What, when, where, whether, who, whose, right? Some of those aren't always dependent words. They can be which, they can be different types of words. Like if they're used in a certain way where you don't have a complete thought, then they are dependent words. Okay, so um, let's take a look. Here's a sentence with a dependent word. This dependent word is probably the most common dependent word because, right? And what does because do? It introduces the dependent clause. It makes sense. We have arrived early because we left early. But if we just wrote because we left early, we see that it's not a complete thought. It's dependent on something else. It needs more information because dependent clauses are not independent clauses. They're not full sentences. It's not a complete thought because this word because suggests you need more information. It's a reason for something, right? So you can't say the reason we left early, but then not explain the reason. Here is a complete sentence, which is fine. And it's connecting, it's the bridge between the independent clause and the dependent clause. We left early because we left. I'm sorry, we arrived early because we left early. So why is a dependent clause a fragment? It just cannot be a sentence because it does not express a complete thought, even if it has a subject and a verb. But because that dependent word is there, it creates your thought not being completed. Because those dependent words are linking, should be linking an independent clause to a dependent clause. Okay, so whenever a dependent word starts, also starts what you think is a sentence, stop to check for subject, verb, and of course, that complete thought. And if you read your sentences sentence by sentence, you tend to recognize more easily that it's missing something. Okay, so here's an example. Can you see the fragment? So the example is, since I moved, I have eaten out every day. So the thing is here, we can see this is a complete independent clause. I have eaten out every day. That is a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. But since I moved, we see that that dependent word since makes us think, since I moved, what? Because you use that dependent word, this word has to make a connection to something else. But in this case, you just full stopped. And that's why it's a fragment. Okay? Because it does not express a complete thought. Since I moved, but you know that something's missing. If someone just said, since I moved, stopped, you would wait for them to finish, right? Because it's not a complete thought. Again, here's your dependent words. So when a word group starts with, oh yeah, so this is special because also, of course, we have questions, right? But these actually cause fragments more often than I would, I have seen this start fragments sometimes. Remember, when a word group starts with those question words, who, whose, or which, right? and of what as well. It is not a complete sentence unless it is a question. Okay, so for example, if you wrote, that woman is the officer who gave me a ticket last week. When you write, who gave me a ticket last week, it sounds like a question. But here they're linking this, modifying, this is the police officer who gave me a ticket. So that's why that's a fragment. And this happens more often, it happens a lot at this level. So just because you just have, I think people think that, oh, it's a new subject, but no, it's not. It's just modifying here. So all you have to do is take out that period and lowercase bw. Okay, so the question is, who gave you a ticket last week? And that's fine. Question formation is fine, but it can't be a sentence. Here's a fragment right here. He is the goalie. He's the goalie whose team is so bad. We're referring to the goalie's team here, so they have to be connected. Um, it by itself, whose team is so bad, right? If that was a question, it doesn't make sense to say it right after this. But if you're asking someone, oh, whose team is so bad, and then you could ask your friend whose team is so bad. But in this case, we're referring to the goalie, so this is an incomplete fragment. But the question, whose team are you on or whose team is so bad, would be fine if it was a question mark, but it wouldn't make sense here, going after this sentence. So that's why you can tell that it's a fragment, because we're referring to modifying the goalie. Okay, Charlene went to the Hi-Ho Club, which does not serve alcohol. Here we see that we're modifying Hi-Ho Club. They do not serve alcohol. Okay. In this case, we would put a comma because this is a non-restrictive clause. A non-restrictive clause just means a clause that does not change the meaning of the sentence. So like, she went to this club, it's fine. And then you have extra information, so we'd have a comma. With this one, it's a restrictive clause. We can't say comma who gave me a ticket because we're identifying the police officer and changing the meaning. So this is a restrictive clause, so we have no comma. And this is also a restrictive clause because we're being so we're it changes the meaning if we add this to it. This does not change the meaning of the sentence because the real message of the sentence is that she went to the Hi-Ho Club. Then it just gave us extra information about the Hi-Ho Club. Okay, so now that's called a restrictive clause where it needs no comma, and a non-restrictive clause where it can have a comma because it's not changing the meaning of the sentence. So again, if we were asking a question, sorry, we would say, which club serves alcohol? That's not for you to know. You're too young, probably. All right, or maybe not. It's fine. But anyway, how do we fix these fragments? Okay, so to correct a fragment that starts with a dependent word, you connect it to the sentence before or after it, okay? If the dependent clause is joined to the sentence before it, okay, this is comma. You do not need to put a comma in front of it. If the dependent clause is joined to the sentence after it, put a comma after the dependent clause. So that's just some punctuation notes. And I'll just show you some examples in our practice. So you have the handout. Go to the handout. Sorry. And we'll do some practice together, and then you'll fill out the rest yourself. Okay, let's go to the top. Okay, so here we are with part one. This is correcting fragments that start with prepositions or dependent words, okay? So I'm going to do a couple of examples for you, and then you get to do it yourself because you do have 10, I think, or something like that. Anyway, what you need to do for these items is underline any prepositions or dependent words, okay? That start a word group. Then correct each fragment by connecting it to the sentence before or after it. So please write the correct sentence underneath here, like that. So I'm sorry, it's a little annoying because you have to push enter, and then the numbers change. But it's all there for you, so it's easy for you to do. But here's my first example. I have a bowl of stones on my desk. So the first thing I did was underline, the highlight for you, underline on my desk, sorry, because that is a preposition, right? So you can refer back to the lists, excuse me, of prepositions or dependent words to know to find them. Okay. All you have to do to rewrite it is write, I have a bowl of stones on my desk. That is it. Preposition does not need a comma. It's just adding extra information. Okay, so for the next one, we're going to look for a dependent word. I can say that, so I'm going to take it and I'm going to underline it. Okay, and then let me check and see if it's a fragment. Because I have gathered these stones from different places. Ooh, so I'm checking that. Is that a complete thought? The answer is no. Okay, so you're going to copy it. Unless you're a fast typer, feel free to type it again. That's fine too. Because I've gathered these stones from different places, they each have a special meaning for me. So we see that this is the dependent clause. So if the dependent word comes at the beginning and the dependent clause is at the beginning, we put a comma. That's what I was saying in the rule. If it's in the middle, you don't put any commas. So because I have gathered these stones from different places, they each have a special meaning for me, and that's the correct way to do it. I'll do one more. I'm going to let you do two, but I'm going to do another preposition. Okay, so I'm going to skip two. That's for you to do on your own. I was taking a long walk with my grandfather in the neighborhood near his house. Oh, so these are easy. I think people have an easier time when they're correcting these. So I see that the preposition is here. So let's read the sentence. In the neighborhood near this house. We know that sentences need to have a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. This doesn't have any of those. It doesn't have a subject, it doesn't have a verb, and it doesn't have a complete thought. So all you have to do again is copy and paste it or type it over if you're a fast typer. Try not to mess up those numbers. If you do what I did, just please erase those numbers. It makes my life easier because I can read it better. And all you have to do is add it to the sentences. Feel free to keep the underline if you want, or not underline it. I like the underline in there. But you can do whatever you want. You don't need to underline it. So that's all you have to do to fix it, okay? And then you have to do the rest on your own, okay? So take your time. Just find the either preposition or dependent word, right? And combine the sentences. So the one thing that people are a little bit scared of sometimes is don't forget the comma. So remember, the dependent word becomes at the beginning with the dependent clause, a comma. If the dependent word is in the middle, no comma, okay? If the example is and that's right, that's fine. Okay. All right. So I will go to the next one. So the next, it's a long chapter, but should be review for everybody, I hope. And if it's not, that's okay. You're learning something new. So let's go ahead and start this. So fragments that start with ing verbs. So ing verbs are called gerunds. That's gerunds, and it's the form of the verb that ends in ing. So for example, walking, writing, running. So like I am walking. Usually we have a helping verb like I was walking, I was writing, I was running, or that's past tense. It can be in present tense. I was walking when I tripped. I was writing a letter to my friend when the bell rang, right? Samantha was running yesterday morning. Okay, so usually if it's a verb, we have to have a helping verb. Okay, so unless these gerunds have a helping verb, it is not a complete sentence. There is an exception. Sometimes an ing verb is used at the beginning of a sentence, but it's actually a noun. So English is an annoying language sometimes because even though this looks like a verb, it is not a verb, it is a noun because it is actually the thing. Like walking is good exercise, right? It's the subject. Cooking is fun. Skiing is fun. Swimming is good exercise. The same thing. So the idea that this activity is a thing, person, place, or thing, which is a noun. So these are not action words. In this case, swimming is fun, cooking is my hobby, and running is my favorite sport. These are all the subjects, and these are actually nouns, not verbs. But the thing is, they'll still have a verb after it, right? So in this case, the activities will have a verb after it and be a complete thought. Okay, so we did have to warn you about that, that sometimes these words are actually still called gerunds because they have ing, but it's actually a noun and also the subject of the sentence usually. Okay, so how do you correct a fragment? Sorry, a fragment that starts with an ing verb. So to correct a fragment that starts with an ing verb, form to do it, correct it either by adding whatever sentence elements are missing. So are you missing a subject and a helping verb, or by connecting that fragment to the sentence before or after it, or put it right by what it's modifying? And I'll show you that what I mean in a minute. Modifying. Usually you'll need to put a comma before or after the fragment to join it to the complete sentence. So for example, I ran as fast as I could, hoping to get there on time. Here we see hoping to get there on time. The problem here is hoping is not a subject da, 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 da. In the sentence. It doesn't have a verb after it, right? So we ask ourselves, what is missing? A subject and a verb, right? And a verb. Okay. So how do we fix it? There are two ways. So this is the fragment. This is not correct. So you can add a subject and a verb to the second and make a new sentence, right? I ran as fast as I could. I was hoping to get there on time. Okay. That's one way we do it. We need to add what's missing. The other way to do it is to put the modifying phrase near to what it is modifying. Modifying phrases don't have to be complete sentences. This is hoping to get there on time. I ran as fast as I could. This is modifying, this phrase is modifying I. See that? You have to make sure that you put the phrase where it's modifying. This can have some problems and actually create misplaced modifiers. So be careful because you just have to make sure that hoping to get there on time, what are we modifying? In this case, we're modifying I. So we have to make sure that we put it in front of the I, okay? Because that's what we're modifying. So those are the two ways to do it. Okay. All right. This is just a language note. English uses ing verb forms and infinitives before the verb. If you're confused by that, check out chapter 33 or just give me an email. All right. So time for practice. I'm gonna go back to your handout, part 2 this time. So just move down. Okay, so this one is all by itself. These are all about fragments that start with the ing verbs. So this instructions are a little bit long, but they're also giving you a little bit of information. So it's not a difficult activity. All right, so what you need to do for this paragraph is underline any ing verb that appears at the beginning of a word group, okay? So these are your sentences. They're nice and numbered, okay? So you can always just like look. No, okay, there's no word group. There's no word. Oh, there is. Oh, okay. But it's, maybe it's not a verb. In this case, it's not a verb. It's actually a noun. But you can underline it if you, anyway, just to see where it is. Here's another one. You should underline it. Here's another one. You should underline it. Underline it. So you get the idea. The next thing then is to read the word group to see it as a subject and a verb and expresses a complete thought. I will do this first example for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's see. Okay, I underlined this one, but no, that's okay because that's a gerund, but it's a subject. Walking is one way, right? It's one unusual way to set records. Wait a minute. I just learned that walking can be a subject and it has a verb behind it, so this is not a fragment. This is an okay sentence. I don't see any in sentence 3, but wait a minute. I do see sentence 4. I see walking backward around the world. So is anything missing here? Walking backward around the world. Huh? Yes, it's missing something. So what do we have to do with it? It's missing a subject and a verb. So I already put the numbers for you. So you need to fix, like it's sentence 4 is the fragment, so you need to do something about that. So it says, correct the fragment by either adding the missing sentence elements to it or connect it to the sentence before or after it. In this case, let's see, does it fit with the sentence before or does the sentence fit after it? So let's read the sentence before it. In 1931, Funny Wingo set out an ambitious journey, walking backward around the world. Oh, okay. So we see that it easily just fits right there. All you have to do is take out that period and make that W smaller, lowercase, and that's fine. That's it. It's adding it. That's done. Okay. Because it's modifying journey. This is the journey. The difficult, ambitious journey is walking across the world. Sorry, backward across the world. So it's fine that they're right next to each other. You don't need a comma, because it's a restrictive clause. It changes the meaning of the sentence. So all you have to do is write the whole thing by take out the period and make the W a lowercase. And then so just keep going, find those gerunds, underline them. Just ask yourself the same thing. Is this a complete sentence? If it's not, either add the missing information or add it to the sentence before or after it, whichever one makes sense. Okay, going back to the handout, the next one is fragments that start with a to plus verb. This is called the infinitive form of the verb. So it's called to plus verb, to plus the base form of the verb, right? Like to see, to go, to know. Okay. When you think that a sentence begins with, when what you think is a sentence begins with a to and a verb, it's called the infinitive form of the verb. You need to make sure that it is not a fragment. Okay, so here's an example. If we read this by itself, sorry, it looks like you can already see that it's not a complete sentence. To see if it has anything I need, we see that it's missing a verb, it's missing a subject, right? So it's a fragment. But it was written where it says, each day I check freecycle.com to see if it has anything I need. Now, all you have to do to correct this is very similar to the gerund. Take out that period and make the T lowercase and add it to the sentence before it. Okay, so um, here's some more information, right? So in your own writing, you could circle or underline. If you're doing it on a computer, I guess underline works better than circling. But typically when you are drafting and revising, you might print out your paper so you can circle any to plus verb combination. That's any infinitive. To plus the V form of the verb, or to plus the base form of the verb. It starts with a word group and ask yourself, does the word group have a subject? If it's not, that just shows you, okay, this probably is a fragment. Does it have a verb? Yes. Underline any subject and double underline any verb. So this is just do whatever way you want. But then ask yourself, does the word group express a complete thought? No, then it's not, then it's a fragment, right? So if the word group is missing a subject or verb or does not express a complete thought, it is a fragment. All right, so we have to correct it just like the same way. Add it to the sentence before or after it, right? If you put the to plus verb word group first, put a comma after it because that's the infinitive introductory clause, okay? So let's take a look. I already did this one, but so we said each day I check the freecycle.com to see if it has anything I need. To see if I have anything I need is the fragment. All we have to do is add it to the sentence. Take out that period, make it a lowercase. Here's another one. Sherry looked under the car. Well, that's a complete sentence. We have a subject, we have a verb, and we have a complete thought. To check the strange smell coming from it. What? Where's the subject? Where the verb? We don't have it. In this case, all we have to do the same thing. Sherry looked under the car to check out the strange smell coming from it. Or Sherry. Oh, sorry, let me put the slideshow back on. If a word group begins with to and a verb, it must have another verb, or it is not a complete sentence. When you see a word group that begins with to and a verb, first check to see if there's another verb. There's no other verb. Sorry, that should have space. The word group is a fragment. So we're going to go back to the handout. Okay. Okay. So it's a paragraph. It's nicely numbered for you. Here's the instructions. Underline any to plus verb combination that appears at the beginning of a sentence in the paragraph. Then read the whole word group to see if it is a subject and a verb and expresses a complete thought. Note, not all of the word groups that start with to and a verb are fragments, so be careful. It's just making sure that you're really like this one. So this is that introductory infinitive. Oh no, sorry, this is just an introductory phrase. This is a preposition, an introductory phrase. So you can also have an infinitive introductory phrase. But that's just an example. So um, like this one, to be on a stamp, the photo must be in digital form order. So this is not incorrect because this is just an introductory phrase, happens to be in the infinitive form, and but it's connected to a independent clause that has a subject, verb form, and a complete thought. Okay, so it's warning you about that. Okay, so below this fragment, so then I want you to rewrite the mistakes here. Okay, all right. So you read through it. Um, Underline any to be. Okay, well, I see to be here, right? Okay, but they have a verb there. Oh, it's okay. All right, now that it is easy to put any, oh, wait a minute. Oh my goodness, another to put. Okay, but let's see. Oh, wait, I already see a verb here. Okay, let me see. Now, though, it is easy to put any face or image on the stamp. It has a subject, it has the verb is, and it has a complete thought. So, oh, that's fine. Oh, it doesn't even have anything there, right? Oh, here's to make personalized stamps. To make, right? Oh, so ask yourself, in this sentence from here to here, is there a subject? No. Is there a verb? No. There's a problem. So how do we fix it? Let's, it looks like it's not going to go here because already here it has kind of repetition. So let's read the sentence before it. Many websites show you how to make personalized stamps. Oh, all you have to do is combine that. Take out the period, lowercase the t, and that's your rewrite for number 4. So you rewrite it here. Okay? And just continue to find those infinitives, underline them, and ask yourself, is this a complete thought? There are 3 more. Oh no, yeah, 3 more mistakes. Okay? All right. Going back to the chapter. The next one, this one is the most common. I think it's because people think that they should separate examples or explanations. Um, but that's not what you're supposed to do because they're not, if it doesn't have a subject, verb, and complete thought, um, it's not a complete sentence. Also, it's actually, hold on. I'll tell you in a second. Okay, so as you edit your writing, pay special attention to groups of words that are examples or explanations of information you presented in the previous sentence. They may be fragments. And I did want to tell you right here, before I even go on, is this last type of fragment is harder to recognize because there is no single word or kind of word to look for. Because sometimes people won't use these signal words. They'll just put the example or explanation, but they'll forget to use a subject and a verb. Okay. But these words can help you if you notice these words and you might have a fragment. Okay. So if you do have these words, it might signal that you have a fragment. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at some examples. People have different kinds of learning styles. For example, visual or auditory. Now, this is almost a complete sentence. It's nice that this person wrote, for example, but we're missing the subject and a verb. So how do we fix it? We either add the subject and a verb for this sentence or just add it to this one. And you could put a comma. The comma rule is the same thing. Usually with an example or an explanation, you will put a comma because it's a non-restrictive clause. It's just extra information. So usually you put a comma. You only don't put a comma if it changes the meaning of the sentence. Okay. Here's another one. I learned my best for performing an action, such as an experiment. Well, such as an experiment is not a complete sentence. It's missing a subject and a verb and a complete thought. Okay. So remember, especially, for example, like or such as tend to cause fragments sometimes. Okay, so when a group of words gives an example of information in the previous sentence, stop to check it for a subject, verb, and a complete thought. So here's an example. I have found many great things at freecycle.com. Oh, that's nice. Like nearly a new computer. Uh-oh. we see that these are words help us see that we're adding an example to our writing, but we're missing the subject and we're missing the verb. So that's a fragment. Here's another example. Sorry. Recycle.com is a good website, especially for household items. Okay, that's a fragment, especially for household items. It's missing a subject and a verb and a complete thought. And the last one, it lists many gently used appliances, such as ovens. Okay, again, doesn't have a subject, doesn't have a verb, and doesn't have a complete thought. Those are three examples of examples that are fragments. So how do we fix them? Connect it to the sentence before or after it, or just add whatever it's missing, a subject, verb, or both. Okay, when you connect the fragment to the sentence, you may need to change some punctuation, okay? And like I said, fragments that are examples usually have a comma. Because remember, we don't use a comma if it is um, if it changes the meaning of the sentence, if it's a restrictive clause, okay? All right, so freecycle.com recycles usable items such as clothing. We already said that. Well, just add it with a comma, such as clothing. Okay. Here's another fragment. I should list some things on freecycle.com. Sweaters I never wear. Oh, so this is an example where you don't have those such as, especially, or like. We just wrote the sweaters I never wear. It's kind of complicated because it does seem like it has a um, subject and a verb, but it's not a complete thought. The sweaters I never wear, what? Right? So this is the sweaters is the subject, and this is modifying I never wear. The sweaters should have a verb that something about the sweaters. The sweaters are blah blah blah, right? So that's the problem here because this I never wear is not the subject and the verb of the sentence. It's just modifying sweaters. So sometimes people get confused because, like, I have a subject, I have a verb, but it doesn't make sense because this is modifying sweaters, and sweaters is the subject. So we need to have a verb and a complete thought about sweaters. So one way to fix it is I should list some things on freecycle.com. The sweaters I never wear could keep others warm. That's a complete thought. That's nice. Or you could say, for example, the sweaters I never wear. Okay. That's okay too. Or including. Okay. Both would be fine, the way to fix it. Here's a fragment. I've found many great things at freecycle.com. That is not a fragment. The fragment is highlighted like a nearly new computer. All you have to do, comma, and lowercase l. That's it. Goes together fine. So the fragment here is especially for household items. All you have to do to fix it is a comma and lowercase e. Here's our fragment, such as ovens. So the whole thing is, this is a fine independent clause on its own, but this is not. So it lists many gently used appliances, such as ovens. Here, we just have to put a comma, lowercase s, and it's a good sentence. Okay, so the comma rule, okay, so if you're not following on like that I keep saying as I wrote it down for you. So comma should be used before like and such, and especially if they're part of a non-restrictive clause. So non-restrictive clause just means extra information. A restrictive clause means it changes the sentence's meaning. Okay, so the only one we had that was a non-restrictive clause is way over when we talked about the police officer, right? Because the police officer who gave me a ticket last week, that changes the meaning. That's a necessary clause. Everything else is just, oh yeah, and goalie, right? Um, so these two, we're modifying this. This is important. It changes the meaning of the sentence. We're modifying the goalie, and it changes the meaning of the sentence. Whose team is so bad? It's necessary to understand the whole meaning of the sentence. This is just extra information. Okay, so I'll just say that one more time. Um, Basically, with examples, you mostly will have just comma, okay, before like, such as, and especially, okay, and for example, okay. All right. So we're going to go to part 4. There's only two more parts. Okay, so correcting fragments that are examples, explanations. I want to say that even though this is one of the most common errors, most people get it and have no problem. Now that they understand it, you guys fix them quickly. So that's really good. Most people after this lesson, especially with examples of fragments that are examples or explanations, um, it's when you read sentence by sentence, you're getting that this something is a fragment and you could fix them pretty easily. So that's what I wanted to say, that it is common, but you guys get it pretty quickly usually. All right, so this is kind of, that's a long explanation. It's just please underline the word groups. It's just easier. You know, you're recognizing them, you're looking for them that are examples or explanations. Then read the word group to see if it has a subject and a verb and expresses a complete thought. Okay, and then below, you're going to rewrite the incorrect ones. Okay, how do you do that? You need to make sure you fix it by adding a missing sentence elements, such as a subject or a verb, or just combining it with the sentence before or after it. Okay, let's take a look. Being a smart consumer can be difficult. Okay, no, I don't see an example there. Oh, but I do see an example here, especially when making a purchase. Oh, okay, okay, I'm underlining that now. And then I see, oh, it's missing some sentence elements. It's missing a subject and it's missing a verb. And so can I add it to the sentence ahead of it? Yes, because that's what it's modifying. So all you have to do, and that's it. Okay. It's fine if you leave it underlined. It's fine if you don't. I don't mind. Okay. So now does this make sense? Being a smart consumer can be difficult, especially when making a major purchase. Good. This doesn't really change the meaning of the sentence. So you keep the comma. Okay. All right, so you just have a few more to do right there. And oh yeah, and the last one is all types, okay? So I don't have any more information about this before this one because it's all of them mixed together. So the instructions are not as detailed, but now you know what to do, right? You know how to find fragments in the different ways, and you need to fix them, okay? So in the following sentences below, underline each word group that is a fragment, then correct the fragments by connecting them to the previous sentence or adding the missing elements, okay? So our example is, with the high cost of producing video games, game publishers are turning to a new source of revenue. Okay, so wait a minute. With the high cost, so I would underline that fragment. No, wait a minute, because where's the subject? Where's the verb? Where's the complete thought? It doesn't have it. So what did I do? I just added that introductory clause, prepositional phrase to the beginning, right? Because it's modifying this. The high cost of producing video games, game publishers are turning to a new source of revenue. Okay. So here, let's do number one together to add to their income. That is a fragment. Dun, 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 right? Missing a subject, missing a verb, missing a complete thought. All right, and you know, you could find them pretty easily, I think. Okay. Um, be careful. Let's just go ahead and go do two. Sometimes the ad shows a character using a product, for example, drinking a specific brand of soda to earn health points. Now, be careful because this is long, but it's still a fragment because where's the subject? Where's the verb, right? Nobody is drinking a specific brand of soda. We need a subject here, okay? All right, so you'd underline that and fix it. Okay, so you're going to do all those on your own? All right, that's it. Good luck. This was a long one, but I think usually once people understand the rules, it's not too difficult for people to practice looking for those fragments, correcting those fragments, and understanding how to revise them in their own writing. So thank you very much.